Erdogan is a champion of secularism, yes?
He is advocating secularism.
He's a champion of it. He goes to Egypt and talks about it.
Cairo. He said, exactly, yes, he said that.
And some people look at it as a model of secularism. Is there resonance for that in the Middle East?
I think that, you know, he's carrying something.
This is not an Arab state, obviously.
Yes, but when he went to Egypt in July, 2 years, so 1.5 years ago, and then he said, you know, we are not scared of secularism. He was talking from his own experience, and I think that there is something that we cannot deny. With the Islamists, when they were asked about the situation, they were saying we are much closer to Erdogan and the Turkish model than the Iranian. We don't want the Iranian. So he tried, and the administration, the current Turkish administration, are trying something which is completely new, and this is a secular state, a civil state with Islamic reference, and now they are very cautious.
So that is a model that you would look to, the Turkish model.
No, and this is why still, you know, I'm always critical. I'm saying they are doing good things, but still, lots of things to do. For example, when it comes to minority, when it comes to Kurds, when it comes to freedom of expression, we still have a lot to do. Second, it's also something which has to do with the economic model. It's not enough for me to say that you are economically successful. What is important for me is this South-South relationship, helping
South-South
relationship, economic relationship, when it comes to helping the other countries to improve, to just economically being empowered. And they are trying something with, you know, almost 40 embassies open in African countries, Turkish embassies, I mean. And I think that this is interesting, but I'm still constructively critical towards the Turkish model.
While I have you here in the United States in this conversation, I want to move to what's happening in Syria, what you think might happen in Jordan, and what might happen in Saudi Arabia, and what might happen in Bahrain. Syria first.
Well, it's a very sad situation, and I think that, unfortunately, I'm quite cynical about this. I think that...
Cynical?
Cynical, yes, because I think, from the beginning, I think that we need to take positions of principle. Bashar al-Assad is a dictator, and he has to leave. There is no future with Bashar al-Assad in this country and with his regime. Now, the opposition is divided, and we don't know exactly who is who within the opposition. But I think that the West, in the whole process, not following what was done in Libya, I don't think that an intervention, and this is not the way, but to be quite clear on a position of principle that is helping the country to find a solution. And I'm cynical because I think today that there is an agreement not to agree between Western countries and power. The United States
there's an agreement between Western powers and
Russia and China not to agree.
You think they agree not to agree? They agree not to agree?
Yes.
For what purpose?
I think that the destabilized Syria now is helping to do many things in geostrategic terms to destabilize the Middle East now. It's very weak. For economic reason, geostrategic reason, a very weak Syria is not at all helping the Middle East to find a way out.
And what you would have with Assad's either leaving the country or being killed or stepping down or whatever would be a destabilizing that would provide, would offer or perhaps suggest a very detrimental situation that might spread beyond the borders of Syria.
I think, you know...
Is that what you're arguing?
No, it's a bit more complex than this. I think that if we go and we have a stabilized, free Syria with people voting and where a situation could be also a new relationship between Shia and Sunni, because one of the great questions of the coming years is this divide between Shia and Sunni. And I think that this situation now in Syria is helping to nurture the divisions, and nurturing the division
between Sunni and Shia.
Yes, of course. I think that this is not new. Yeah. The reality of the conflict between Iran and Iraq.
But Alawites are sort of a strange. I mean, they're not. That's not the Shia in Syria are not the same as the Shia in Bahrain.
Yes,
or Iran.
You are completely right. The problem is that if you look at who is supporting who now in Iraq, you will see that Iran the Shia in Lebanon, they are all supporting Bashar al-Assad. And
Hezbollah in
Lebanon. And the people who are supporting the opposition are Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the Sunni. So we have this divide. And I think that today in the Middle East, in geostrategic terms, when it comes to the United States or Israel or European countries, this divide, paradoxically, is helping just to control the region much more.
So it's a Western conspiracy to have...
No, don't. Yeah, I told you from the beginning, don't. It's more complex than this. I think that the first to play this, it's not the conspiracy. The power of the West is to play with the weaknesses of the Muslims, and they are to blame, not the West first.
The weakness you're saying the weakness of the Muslims is to have very, very deep divisions within, and that the West plays off those divisions for its own gain, or to maintain, to prevent a united Muslim or Islamic...
No, not a united. I think at least to get stability in the region, to get, the people, for example, in the Middle East. When it comes, for example, to the relationship with Israel, they are not happy. So the more you have division over there, the more you will have people not being able to support the Palestinians, for example, but not only, and even freedom and democratization within the country. So I think that when it comes, for example, let us be clear, and this is what I am advocating in the book. Don't talk about the Arab Spring only in political terms. We are now dealing with economic challenges, and the Middle East is still an economic power here. Who are the new actors in the Middle East? The United States? No. The European countries? No. China, Russia, Malaysia, Indonesia, these are the new players. And the new Middle East means new economic actors. The power of China now in the Middle East is something which is unprecedented, and I think that we have
How is it expressed?
Expressed with direct relationship in economic terms with all the countries. And for example, the relationship between Russia and China, with Syria, with Iran at the beginning, and even with, even the Mubarak's son, Gamal Mubarak, who was to come after his father, he was turning towards China. Gaddafi, who was killed, he was turning towards China. So I think that all this discussion about democracy and political terms is something that is missing. There is something missing if we are not talking about the economic challenges.
Many people in the West, and I think including the Obama administration, would like to see stability and democratic stability. Clearly the president has expressed that idea, with institutions, strong civil institutions, and they would like to see it and they would like to see Syria stabilized, and they would like to see a restriction of Iranian power, because Iran is trying to have influence in Syria right now, and with Hezbollah, and with Hamas. And they would like to see countervailing forces within the Islamic world against Iraq.
I think, once again, there is the discourse and what is said.
That's why they were hopeful about the Arab Spring and hopeful about...
This is what is said, and this is there. There are things that we...
You don't believe that? What I just said?
I'm not sure that it's as good as this.
If you're a conspiracist.
No, it has nothing to do with conspiracy. It has to do with politics. It has to do with studying history. Can you tell me that if the United States wanted, for example, more democracy in the Middle East, they would be supporting Saudi Arabia the way they are? Is this right? It's not.
Well, they would say, you know what the United States would say? Well, they would say it's a case-by-case issue.
Democracy is a question of case per case. I don't think so.
No, I don't either. But I mean, the article, they make exceptions for Bahrain. You're absolutely right. Exactly. Saudi Arabia and Bahrain.
Exactly. In Bahrain, for example, the people who were protesting, they were not only Shia against Sunni or the opposite. They were people who wanted freedom.
Well, here's an interesting point. You say that the people who were at the heart of the Arab Spring and who were the people first in Tahrir Square, were mostly young people who had been influenced by an education or relationship with the West.
Yes.
And that's where they got some of the values that they were trying to promote in their own country.
Not only the values, but the training, the cyber dissidents, as we call them, they were trained in the West, and they were pushing towards more freedom and democracy, and all this business that the West didn't know what was happening. That's not right. So the point here is that to push towards democracy is something that could be done and
Yeah.
is supported by the West. My only concern is, when it comes to politics, you made the point. You made the point, is that we are for democracy when it suits us.
Fair enough. I mean, well, you know, you would argue that they would like to see the principles evolve at different times. Here's what you wrote. When nations have so often and so long been visibly supporting dictatorship in the name of frequently undisclosed economic military interest, it would today be naive and inconsistent amid the general excitement to consider the global North's support for democratization as a sincere, unselfish expression of newfound love for the people of the region, entirely devoid of strategic calculations.
Is this wrong? Or is this just
Well, I
to
don't
deal
think
with...
anything is devoid of strategic calculations.
Okay, so that's the point. That's the point. And I think that if we want to be consistent, you know,
In other words, you can have strategic calculations and then and also have a respect for democratic values.
Exactly. But at the same time, you know, for example, in Iraq, who was supporting for so many years Saddam Hussein? It was the U.S. administration. Right. So the point that I'm making...
Well, because there also was strategic calculation there that, you know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. You know, the notion was that Saddam stood as a kind of bulwark against Iran. That was part of the reason that they supported him in the Iranian war, because they've been, you know.
No, it was more than that. It was even before, and I think they are still now supporting dictators in a way where we have to be critical. Right. So as much as where we are here in the States, we have to be critical by saying and asking, and this is my responsibility. I am a Western European citizen, and to be critical towards my own governments and say, you know what? If you want democracy in the world, you better be consistent with the democratic values. Don't preach democracy when it suits you and forget the people. And don't tell me now that you are so caring about the blood of the Libyan people that you went there while you are leaving so many people. 170 people are being killed every day in Syria. We forgot the United Nations in Iraq with Saddam Hussein because of weapon of mass destruction. We forgot this and we lied about it, and now we are saying we are following the United Nations. Once again, the United Nations when it suits us. I don't think that this is consistent. So my position on this is very much to say, as citizens and as scholars and as intellectuals, the best way we can help the West, as much as the Muslim majority country, is to be principled, to know that politics is politics, but we still need more. We need more ethics in politics.
Even Secretary Rice, when she was Secretary of State, went to Egypt and said essentially, you know, that perhaps we need to re-examine who we've been supporting. You remember that?
Yes, that's completely true. But to re-examine is not enough. To change is a necessity.
This book is called Islam and the Arab Awakening. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
See you again.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us. See you next time.